Hey, what's up, guys? I did a live stream the other day. It was a lot of fun, just kind of hanging out with you guys, chit-chatting about radar detectors, doing Q&As and that kind of stuff. And I got a little bit of time today, so I figured I'd hop on and we'll do some more. Now, while we're getting started here, we're waiting for people to join and log on and whatnot. A couple questions that you guys mentioned last time. One of them was, hey, I really like the live stream. Would have been nice to, maybe get a notification or something. Can you maybe schedule them so we get a notification so we know when to tune in? Yeah, that was actually my idea originally. YouTube has a couple ways of doing the live streams, and one of them is to schedule that. And so that way you guys get the notification ahead of time. That was my idea originally, but I'm kind of having an issue with the software. I can either just hop onto YouTube and hit stream now through my laptop's camera, and that works great. The other alternative is to schedule it and then connect later with a piece of software. That used to work for me, but I'm noticing right now with the software, every time I connect with the software, it crashes. I'm not sure why exactly. So maybe the software updated or my Mac updated or something and it's not compatible, but every time I try to stream live to a pre-connected stream or whatever, that doesn't work. And so yeah, I'll have to figure that out. But anyway, that's why. So something I'm working on, since I know a lot of you guys brought that up and you're like, hey, I'd like to connect, but I didn't see that it was there, I guess another thing is when these show up next to the subscribe button, if you hit the notification bell, you'll actually get a notification of when I upload videos, of when this one goes online, that kind of stuff. That way you can get notified and you can tune in. So cool. Yeah. Other than that, let's see, some topics that I wanted to talk about. Kind of had a couple things in mind, things like, doing reviews, good reviews versus bad reviews, kind of how all that stuff works. We could talk about radar detectors, some of the new stuff that's coming out. I actually just did a video that I posted yesterday comparing the different remotes. So NetRadar DSP, MaxCI 360, Stinger VIP, and NetRadar DSP. Did I say that one already? I don't know. Redenso, NetRadar, Stinger, and Escort. Cool. So I did a video, just posted that one. There's also the next one that I'm working on. I shot it the other day. I just need to go and edit it and get it all up online and stuff. That one's going to be talking about the latest new and updated radar detector. So when I finish this, I'll get to editing that one. So talking about all the new detectors that have come out recently, going over all the different firmware updates and improvements to our detectors, and also some stuff that's going to be coming out this coming month. So new detectors that are about to come out, I'm going to be talking about that as well. But anyway, yeah, let's see. So participants, let's get all this stuff up and running. So that's going to be the next video anyway. I want to make sure I have everything set up here properly. And excuse me for my simple stuff, kind of getting the stuff, set up, making sure it all works. Let's see. Just want to make sure. Hey, how's it going? So yeah, I'm kind of curious to hear as far as what you guys have been wondering about as far as radar detectors. I'll kind of share some of my thoughts as far as radar detector stuff lately. One thing that I've been thinking about is doing reviews of products and, talking about like good reviews, bad reviews. And I like to focus on the best stuff out there, the best radar detectors, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes I think it's also good to talk about, what are the bad aspects of a radar detector. We got to talk about both, right? Not just the good and not just the bad. We got to cover the whole things to have it be pretty balanced. Some products, they kind of suck, you've got bad quality countermeasures, whether it's something radar-based or laser-based or whatever. And I don't really like focusing on the bad stuff as much. I do it sometimes, and I think it's important. But in general, I like to focus on the awesome stuff that's out there and, what's the best, what's the coolest, what's the most effective and useful. That's the stuff I like to focus on. And it's nice, that's enjoyable, that's fun. It's like, look how awesome this is. Focusing on the bad stuff, not to name names, but you guys know a lot of the stuff. I don't really like that as much. And I've kind of been thinking a lot lately, like, where's the line between, covering the bad stuff and where do you go too far to where you start being, too mean or harsh on people or something. And I guess kind of the line that I've been thinking about, and I'm curious to hear what you guys think too. Let's see, let me make sure this is set up right. Live chat, cool. Is this? Yeah, so the line that I've been thinking of is basically like never resorting to personal attacks, like I may disagree with the person's idea, their approach to something. I may think that they're a scammer or their product sucks, but I never wanted to turn into coming in loud and clear. Cool, thank you. I never wanted to turn into like personal attacks and saying, you suck, you're blah, 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 like that kind of stuff. That's just not my approach, And so there's always a line of like, hey, tested the product, here's the result, here's what you claim it does, here's how it actually performs in my testing. make sure everything in my testing is set up properly and being done properly to ensure that my results are actually valid, but keep it very scientific and objective in that sense of saying, here's what you claim, here's what the results are. There you go, simple. You can get into like, man, you blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know. I never really liked that. So that's just kind of something I've been thinking about a lot lately is like, the best way to approach bad reviews and that kind of stuff. So yeah, anyway, I'm kind of curious to hear what you guys think as far as all that as well. So I don't know. That's just something that's been on my mind and I wanted to bring it up and mention that. So cough, cough, eBay radar. Let's see. I've got this pop-up thing that I'm trying to get rid of here with YouTube. How do I? Oh, there we go. Participants. Sorry, 1 second. I'm trying to make sure I can see. Have you tested the K40 with the 3 optics against the VPR? That is a funny story. No, I have not tested it. So, okay, well, interesting that you bring that up. Okay, so K40 is claiming now that they can jam some of the new DragonEye guns. There's a video, last I saw it was an unlisted video that they send out to their customers where they tested a DragonEye gun against the K40 jammers. And it's really interesting because if you watch the video, it doesn't add up. It seems pretty cool. Hey, Rebel. It seems cool unless you've actually shot the gun and you know what the sounds of the gun are. In short, it looks like it jams the gun for a couple seconds and then it stops. But if you listen to the sound of the gun, the sound that the gun is producing, they never show like the camera through the viewfinder of the gun. They just kind of say, hey, here's a picture of a guy shooting the gun and we're not getting any reading. But if you listen to the gun, it's not actually even being aimed at the car. It's not producing. The sound that it gets is basically saying, I'm not getting any reading. I don't want to go too much into detail with that kind of stuff, but it basically looks like they're not even pointing the gun at the car. But they're saying they are, and then they're like, hey, I'm getting no reading because my gun isn't aimed at the car. And you're like, this isn't adding up. What you're showing with the gun is not right. And if you look at the finger stuff, it's multiple camera takes that aren't synced up. There's some really sketchy stuff there. And I'm like, well, if you look at the hardware that it's doing, if you look at what it's capable of, if you look at maybe different versions of the gun, there's something really fishy going on there. And yeah, anyway, that's a weird situation, but yeah. So, all right, let's see. I bought my Uniden R3 thanks to your review. Just bought. Awesome. Congratulations. Bought a budget dash cam you reviewed a year ago. Awesome. Let's see. I'm interested in the R3. I was wondering if you know any coupon codes to bring it down a little bit. Pretty much you'll never see any coupon codes on the R3. Uniden is super, super strict. If you remember the backstory with the LRD 950 where the price just started to free fall, then they had to release the DFR7 and stuff. With the R3, they're really strict as far as coupon codes or discounts. They're like, if you discount the R3, we're going to pull your authorized reseller capabilities. So pretty much full price, period. That said, eBay has been running a ton of coupons lately. I don't know if you guys have seen for discounts on like anything on eBay, which also would then apply to R3s, maybe 15% coupons, that kind of stuff. So you can get a discount at a lot of times, but they're still trying to do some things. There's people who are buying them at a discount and then trying to flip it. And then customers wind up getting screwed over because there's no warranty, all this kind of stuff. And people are trying to flip it for like a $20 or $30 profit. And so they're doing things to kind of combat that. So you can buy it, but I guess that's the way to do it. But Uniden's not too thrilled about it just because they're trying to avoid people flipping them. But if you want to get one at a discount, that would be the way to do it. But I don't necessarily recommend it. So yeah. Let's see. Where to mount it in a 2018 Accord. Yeah, mount your radar detector up high by the rearview mirror and then hardwire it. That's the way to mount a radar detector, ideally. Upgrading my Max 360. What's the difference based on the specific 360s based on the serial? Yes, so where's my 360? On the bottom of the detector, take a look at the serial number. If it starts with 79, like I have one of the older Max 360s, you have the standard Bluetooth chip. They updated the Max 360. I don't remember the serial number off the top of my head. It's like, it starts with 82, 83, 84, something like that. You have the newer version of the Bluetooth chip. It's a different firmware version. And it's just, they make it a little bit easier to connect to the detector. It's the one that's used in like the Redline EX and the Max 360C. They're newer detectors. So basically different serial number, you get different firmware version numbers, but otherwise same detector, performance, features, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I live in California, bought the LRD 950, then upgraded it to the DFR7. Works awesome. Yeah, great choice. You can get those for like $250 now. It's amazing. I mean, that's a lot of detector for the money. So yeah, very interesting. They make the claim that they're diffusers. So They claim that their diffusers make the laser gun generate an error message versus the ALP will produce a jam message. Cool, whatever. Let's see. I'd like to test my R3 next time you do a radar test. I don't typically test other people's detectors. It's kind of a pain sometimes, like shipping detectors, unless it's something that I need. I'm like, hey, I need a detector and I want to borrow it from somebody, but it takes a lot of time to test, and I don't necessarily want to go out and just test like 50 different R3s or something just to see how much sample variation there is. I mean, those tests have been done them before, but in general, I don't really test people's detectors just to see like, hey, do you have a hot copy or do you have a dud or something? Logistically, it's just kind of a pain, and it takes more time if I test extra detectors. Sometimes it's nice just to make sure, there's not too much sample variation or whatever. So there's reasons to do it, but in general, I don't do that. But I would definitely recommend that if you're curious, you can set up your own test. Pretty easy and straightforward to do. I have some kind of tips and tricks on my website that you can take a look at. Brainstorm 69 from the Texas Countermeasure Testing Group put together a nice list of like do's and don'ts and recommendations, and I did some as well, and we kind of put them together. So that's on my website if you want to take a look. Definitely do your own testing. You learn a ton. Highly recommend it. So let's see. Do you ever notice people aiming their radar detector to the sky? Yes, all the time. It's crazy. Your radar detector is supposed to be mounted straight and level. You're not trying to detect radar from the International Space Station, and you're not trying to detect it from China or wherever. It's supposed to be mounted straight. The horns for the radar detectors are actually pretty directional. You're going to lose sensitivity if you have it mounted at some funky angle. So yes, keep it mounted straight and level. They even mention that in the manuals, but people a lot of times they just put it on the windshield and they aim it at some weird angle or whatever, because maybe they just don't realize it, whatever. But yeah, that's super common. It happens all the time. Let's see. I have the Magnum and upgraded to the R3, but it seems like my Magnum still had more range. Why? That can happen. So in general, the R3 is going to have more range. Every time? No. Let's see if I can kind of do two prop detectors. I've got an R1 and whatever, Max 360, whatever. Anyway, typically, in general, what you're going to find is in many situations, they're going to be terrain limited. Just because you have a more sensitive detector doesn't mean you're going to get better range. If you have a Ferrari and a Prius and they're both stuck in traffic, one's not going to be able to go faster than the other, even though one car is actually capable of going faster. So terrain can be a big factor. There are a few instances where like a Redline or an R3 or a Redline or a Magnum may get better range, but that's super, super rare. In general, what you're going to find is the R3 will get better range, but not always. And so that's kind of something to keep in mind. Also, when you're trying to conduct radar detectors or to compare them, you really have to set up a course and kind of like run one detector a couple times and then switch to another detector and then run the other detector a couple times. And the idea is put them in the exact same situation and test them back to back. You can't test them in different courses in different situations with different weather, different terrains, etc., because all that can really have an impact. So in the interest of being like, what's the word, scientific testing something or another, make sure you put them in like a very similar situation and test them back to back. The scientific method, I think, is what it is, to make sure you're doing a very similar test, basically. So yeah, test that way instead of just driving around with one and then driving around with another and basing it just on that. So that's something that I would recommend. And obviously don't run two detectors at the same time because they will interfere. So cool. As far as is the HD Plus the same as the RCM antenna? I think there's actually a difference. So the RCM with the M obviously detects MRCD as well. When I first started testing the RCM, I had the RC. It was basically an HD Plus, but it would hook up to the new RC CPU. I believe there was a hardware change, not just the extra chip for better BSM filtering, but there was kind of a change that they had to make in order to make it compatible with the RC CPU. Since then, Redenso's decided to not do the RC and ship only RCMs. So basically not have one that detects MRCD and another one that doesn't. They decided to make them all do MRCD. It's simpler that way. It makes it more future-proof. There's fewer SKUs for them to keep track of, that kind of stuff. And they're like, well, we can buy them in bulk and discount the price for ourselves. We buy more RCMs, save us a little bit of money, and then we don't have to have two SKUs. So they've decided to do only RCMs now. And so the HD Plus doesn't have MRCD, the RCM does. And they're different systems, different hardware and whatnot. And so, yeah, they're different detectors. When testing, do you set your gun on full power? Yes, but something to keep in mind is you cannot turn down the output power of a radar gun. A lot of radar guns have the option to reduce the range of the radar gun. but that doesn't actually change the output power of the radar gun. That only changes the receive sensitivity. That feature is used for police officers who maybe only want to do it at close range and they want to ignore maybe any reading super far away. The way that works is it just looks for stronger return signals and ignores any weaker signals from cars farther away. Now, for the purpose of testing, you can change the range all you want, but that doesn't affect the output power. There are no radar guns, stock or MPH, custom Decatur, or anything like that, where changing the range of the detector actually affects the output power. That's only the receive sensitivity for the radar gun itself. So for testing purposes, it doesn't actually matter where it's set to. Let's see. Are you getting a lot of MRCD falses where you live? It seems a newer car is false to MRCD all the time. Yes, so it depends on what detector you have, obviously. Some, like the Redenso handles it better than the Net Radar. You get more MRCD falses. Remember with the Net Radar, I got the DSP, I got a false from a Mercedes. The Redenso is false as well, but they get fewer. Make sure you take a look. I don't know which, Michael, let me know which detector you have. If it's a Redenso or whatever. The Redenso has more filtering capabilities. Like you can run it in MRCD narrow instead of wide, MRCD filter high instead of low. Take a look at some of the false filtering, and that will definitely help cut down on some of the falses. But I tried testing it just with the MRCD stuff turned on, and I still do get some falses. I don't have any MRCDs around here, but I'd figure I'd try it anyways just to compare falsing stuff. Yes, they false, but some detectors are better than others about that. So let's see. Have you heard an issue with radar detector or false alert to the laser light sensor on the iPhone? Yes. So a number of phones will actually, with the infrared stuff that you have right here, they can actually cause false alerts on a radar detector because it's, it can do that. And that's actually pretty common. And so you're going to want to make sure that you keep them maybe mounted in a way where the phone isn't, pointing toward the radar detector and causing a false. That can definitely happen. So be aware of that. We don't have apps for Android and iOS in the US like we have here in Benelux. I'm not sure where Benelux is. Maybe let me know. Emil? Yeah. Oh, don't you have apps for Android and iOS? Yeah, we have apps for different stuff. I'm not sure exactly which apps you're wondering about, though. What's a good dual dash cam that can be used as a backup camera, too? I usually don't recommend that. There's some that could do that, and you could maybe flip to like the reverse camera, but usually the screens on dash cams are so tiny that it's not really that useful to use as a backup camera. There's some that have like huge, massive screens, but I haven't tested any of those. I drive a little Miata, and putting a massive screen in my car, excuse me, not really feasible, so I haven't really tested those. So you could do that, but maybe it'd be nice if you can have it like wire into your transmission somehow, so you shift into reverse and your dash cam automatically switches to the rear camera. I don't know if there's any that do that, maybe wire into the OBD2 port or something. But yeah, it's not something that I've messed with for those reasons. The Uniden doesn't even detect laser guns. Yes, it does. Not very well. The sensitivity is not very good, but it does detect them. Even if it does, it's not going to save you from a ticket. Other detectors like the V1 do a better job. The Whistler has some cool laser detection capabilities. It detects it, but not very well, but it doesn't really matter. So yeah. Is the DFR7 still a good buy in 2018? Yes, if you like a lot of detector for not a lot of money. I was just looking on Amazon. You can get them for $250. Yeah, great deal for a detector. Let's see. I meant for a radar alert instead of a radar detector. Oh, so a cell phone is not going to alert you to radar. A cell phone has no radar detection capabilities. It has a GPS chip, so it can alert you to GPS-based threats. So if there's a database of known speed traps or whatever, and you have an app that has that in the database, then when you go to that location, the phone can notify you. If you have an app like Escort Live, other people have detected the radar. Their detector posts that information to the cloud, and then you can get that information to your phone. Yes, you can get that, but your phone has no capability of detecting radar itself. It's strictly a GPS-based feature with some sort of database that you access online, or the database is downloaded to your phone. So that's how that works. But yeah, we've got those. It keeps buffering. That sucks. I'm sorry. Hopefully it streams all right. Yeah. Vortex should read us all a bedtime story about the little radar detector that could. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. That could be fun. Can you test the Ampula Sentry dash cam? I heard it's a good budget dash cam. Never heard of that one. I'm going to be doing in the future less and less dash cam stuff. I get Man, I woke up the other morning. I had like 5 emails in my inbox with different companies wanting me to test and review their dash cam. I've got 4 dash cams in my car right now that I need to test and compare and review. And then when I finish those, I have another 3, 4, 5 in the closet. It takes a ton of time to test and review dash cams, and I don't really enjoy it all that much. And the radar detector stuff usually gets my focus. And so, kind of what I'm wanting to do is when I finish my next batch of dash cam comparisons and reviews, I'm going to be doing less and less of that. I'll still do some, but that's not going to be my focus. With radar detectors, I love this stuff. This is awesome. And there's not a ton of people that do radar detector testing and videos the way that I do. And so when I do them, I feel like I can really give you guys something that's not already out there. With dash cams, there's other people that do dash cam reviews. And so a lot of this information you can already get from somebody else. I mean, I can do it too, and I've got my own style and whatnot, and that's cool. But there's not a lot of people that do radar detector stuff. And so I feel like I can contribute more with this. Plus, with dash cams, there's thousands of dash cams, and there's so many that are constantly coming out that it's impossible for me to keep track of everything and say what's the best when there's another one that came out and I'm like, well, great, now I've got to compare it to the 40 other ones that are out on the market. Logistically, it's just not realistic to compare all of them and keep track of firmware updates. And it's easier with a smaller pool of radar detectors where I'm only looking at like 15 or 20 instead of like hundreds, and so it's, for many reasons, it's just easier for me and more enjoyable to do radar detector stuff than dash cams. And so I'm not going to be doing a ton of dash cam stuff, especially after I finish what I'm doing now. So yeah. Let's see. Depends on your state. Laser jammer stuff. What benefits does a blend mount have over any other ones? So I've tested the blend mount and I've tested the radar detector, what's it called? The radar mount mirror mount. It's like the $30 version. I'm going to need to go back later and like in the video description, add links to all the stuff that we're talking about, The blend mount I found was a much better product than the radar mount. It's $100 versus $30. Obviously, it's much more expensive. It does the same sort of thing, but it's also a much better product. It's better built. One of the main things I noticed is the knobs on the radar mount one. They're kind of sharp and they get loose a lot. And when you try to tighten them by hand, it cuts my fingers a little bit. Or the mount area where you go to like put the detector, it's kind of sharp. And so I wound up poking my fingers. So I don't really like the design as much. It's cheaper, of course, and it does the job. The mount has more like teeth things. So it actually scratched my rear view mirror stem because of the way that it clamps on versus the blend mount connector, better designed. And so it's damaged my car. It hurts my fingers when I use it. I'm just not as much of a fan of it. It'll do the job, don't get me wrong, and $30 is a lot better than $100, but I definitely find the blend mount to be a better product. Later on, I'll go back. I'll have to make notes of like all the stuff I need to add. Here, I'll add this to the video description later. Blend mount versus radar mount, DFR7 links, all this kind of stuff. I'll do it later. I don't think I can do it now, but yeah. Let's see. Is the RCM compatible with the ALP RG2 box? So if you have the RCM, you need to use the Redenso CPU. If you do that, it plugs into the control pad port, I believe. Is that right? Yes. So you unplug the control pad, and then you plug in the Redenso controller, and then it does the interface and all that kind of stuff. You can't take the Redenso RCM CPU or the RCM antenna and plug it into the ALP, I don't think. You can do that with the HD Plus, but I've never tried it with the RCM. So I've never tried that. I don't think it's really designed for that. It might conflict since it's a different antenna. But yeah, so good question. Can the V1 be used as a remote mount with the extra hidden display on the dash? Yeah, I used to do that all the time. I had the V1 and the concealed display, and I would put that right on my dash. And the V1, I would have it mounted up in the up on my rearview mirror, and I would turn off the light so it's darker and stealthier and stuff. And that was really nice. That way I can actually see the concealed display right in my field of view without having to take my eyes off the road. That actually worked really well, and I like that quite a bit. I also had a custom colored concealed display with different colored LEDs and stuff. That way I can just immediately identify K-band versus KA, especially at night, just by the color. So it would glow blue for KA and yellow for K-band. And so I could just see the color, and even if I have the volume turned down, I can see just the color and know, oh, that's KA, I should pay attention. And then maybe not bother my passengers or whatever. So a really cool thing. You can definitely do that. There's companies that sell custom concealed displays, or they can change the LED colors in the V1. I don't remember the link. Just Google it and you'll find it. I'll add that link in the video description too afterwards. So V1 colored display. Notes for that one too. By remote mount, I mean mounted in the grill. Oh, it wouldn't make sense to mount a V1 in the grill because if you do that, then the rear antenna is going to be blocked by your car completely, and you pretty much lose the functionality of the arrows. And so one of the main reasons you'd get a V1 is for the arrows, but if you put it in the grill, the rear antenna is not going to work properly, and so your arrows aren't going to work properly. And if you're going to do that, you might as well get a detector with better performance. Well, I guess this one doesn't support Bluetooth, but get an actual remote like the NetRadar DSP or something and put that there. And then if you need arrows, get a second antenna that goes in the back of your car somewhere so that your arrows work properly. And so, yeah, they sell waterproof boxes for the V1, but you kind of lose one of the main reasons to do that, so I wouldn't recommend it. Okay, so let's see. Exodus SO. What's your view still in the DFR6 as an entry-level detector? I've seen reviews from a while back. Yeah, you can get it online now for one. I was looking before I did this video, $169 to $179. I'll put that down there too. A link to where you can find the DFR6 on sale. Yeah, I mean, for less than $200, you're not going to find a detector with better performance and filtering. It'd be nice if it had GPS, of course, and for a few bucks more, you can get the DFR7, which for most people driving in urban areas, the GPS chip, it's a huge benefit. But if you're looking for a cheap detector and you're more on highway driving or rural driving and you don't need the GPS as much, or if you're in California, perfect example where they don't really use K-band and you can just disable K-band, DFR6 is a fantastic choice. I haven't seen any other radar detectors at that price point that can give you better performance and filtering for less than $200. So, yeah. Have you ever thought of coming out with your own radar design and features by Enricum50? I think about that from time to time, but I don't really want to do that. I mean, one of the things that I really love is testing lots of different detectors, and I love sitting in the position of being the objective, unbiased tester. I'll tell you about Escort and Whistler and Uniden and Redenso and Stinger and NetRadar and everybody, you know? And I love being able to just sit back. I'm kind of armchair quarterbacking in a sense, because, you know, I could be like, wouldn't it be nice to have this feature? Hey, radar detector company, go do that. And it's much, much harder to actually implement it than it is to sit here and say that a company should do something, you know? So there's a lot more involved. And when I talk to companies and you see all the details involved with shipping and customer service and all that kind of stuff, I'm like, man, I don't want to do all that. So I really just like testing all of them. And I mean, heck, if I was to make my own Vortex radar detector, let's say it wasn't as good as another detector, I would still be incentivized to promote my product over somebody else's because it's mine and I'm going to be making more money and I'm trying to make my brand look better, you know? So I really like doing like the consumer reports thing of sitting back and being the objective unbiased tester and looking at all of them. I'm happy to work with, and I do this with Stinger, Redenso, Escort, Uniden, all these companies. I'll work with them to help develop the product, give them feedback, beta test, talk about new stuff that's coming out. And so I can have my hand in things and help out lots of different companies. And I'm happy to do that. So I can still kind of contribute and make a difference that way. But I wouldn't necessarily want to develop my own product, even though from time to time I do kind of play around with the idea in my head. So yeah, good question. By Caleb, do police still use K-band? Yes, in a lot of places, K-band is still very actively in use. In some places, it's not, which is awesome because you could just disable it. But yeah, K-band is still in use all over the country, for better or for worse. And yeah, you still got false alerts. The good news is the FCC is going to be saying that cars are no longer going to be able to use K-band for blind spot monitoring and collision avoidance system. I did a video on that too. I think it starts around 2020 or 2022, something like that. So in a couple of years, they're going to be switching over to like 67 gigahertz instead of 24. And so K-band is going to be phased out of cars in the future, which is amazing. But there's still going to be cars on the road that are being produced now that use K-band. And so it's not going to be going away altogether, but at least it is going to be improving down the line. So that's good. Let's see. What's your go-to radar detector as of right now? R3. I run the R3, but I run a different radar detector every week. Right now, I've got the V1 in my car because I'm playing with V1 driver. After that, I'm going to be playing with JBV1, that app. I've been doing the Redenso RCM lately. I really like the Max 360 CI or Max CI 360. I borrowed one of those, been testing it for a little while. I just shipped it back to the guy a couple days ago. I'll get another one of those. The Max 360 is a nice one. I just ordered the 360C just to play with the Wi-Fi stuff more. So, I mean, I run a different detector every week. But if I really need a detector, R3. Let's see. Rocky Mountain Radar. Yeah. Let's see. Are you selling any detectors by Sebastian? No, I don't sell detectors. I think about it sometimes because I would make more money if I sold it myself instead of linked to somebody else and I make a small affiliate commission, you know? But there's a lot more involved with carrying inventory and shipping and returns and customer service. And I don't know. I don't necessarily want that headache. I like the freedom of being able to just walk away or go on vacation or sit around and make videos and not deal with all that extra hassle. Maybe if I had somebody else helping me with that, that'd be cool. But at this point, I don't run a store. I don't sell anything. I recommend other people's stuff. And I make less money because of that, but it also gives me more freedom and I'm cool with that. Maybe at some point down the line, I still think about it and I'm like, oh, that'd be a cool way to make more money. But anyway, I really like doing this kind of stuff. And I actually, I make money more on affiliate sales, and Patreon is a big one as well. So if you guys really like my videos and you want to support me, I've got a link in the video description to Patreon where you can sign up and contribute, you know, 5, 10, 20 bucks a month, $2, whatever you want. And that goes to help me directly. And yeah, that definitely helps. So that is something you could do. I've got ads in my videos that play. So that's the kind of stuff that I do, but I don't actually sell any radar detectors myself. I don't run a store. So yeah. Any idea when the R3 will have arrows? Word is it's in development. It still needs to be refined and whatnot. Yeah, it would totally make sense for Uniden to do an R3 with arrows. It wouldn't surprise me at all, but I don't have any sort of information as far as when. And as far as future products, some stuff, there's things that I can't say publicly because we talk about it privately. All right, let's see. Hi V7. Shout out to Vortex, #RDF. Hey, what's up, Rocky Road? Budget's around $200 used. Best city driving detector by Caleb. Get the Uniden DFR7. $250. Yeah, great performance. It's got your GPS lockouts and low speed muting. Best detector that you'll find at that price point. I guess it's been brought up like 3 times so far in this video. If you need less than 200, get the DFR6, but no GPS. And if you need city, you're really going to want that GPS. So DFR7 is the one I'd recommend. Go to my website if you're watching. The link is right on the right-hand side. You can pick it up there. Let's see. If R3 gets arrows, can the existing R3 be upgraded or will it be a new device? So yes, you will have to buy a new detector. And here's why. I've got an R1 and I've got a Max 360. The R3, for example, has one front-facing antenna that goes this direction. All it knows when it detects radar is, hey, I'm detecting radar. I have no idea where it's coming from. I just know that I'm detecting radar. It could be radar coming this way. It could be radar that's coming from behind, bounced off of something in the front and reflects back into the antenna. But it has no idea where that signal is coming from. That's different than a detector like the Max 360, which has not just one antenna, but a second antenna. And the idea is it can compare the signal strength from the front to the signal strength from behind and tell, okay, is the signal stronger in this direction or is it stronger in that direction? And that's how the arrows work. And so you need 2 different antennas to tell the difference between front and rear signal strength. And so if you have a detector that physically only has one front-facing antenna, there's no way for it to tell the difference. And so it's not just a software upgrade, you need a physical hardware upgrade. The V1 has 2 antennas. If you want a remote mount detector with arrows, you need a front and a rear antenna. And so you do need 2 antennas. So the R3, there's no way to just do a software update and have it magically have arrows. It's going to need to be a hardware update. It'll be a brand new detector with a new name. And with an additional rear antenna, then it's going to be able to do arrows. So that's actually how that works. So good question. That one actually comes up quite a bit. Let's see. Should I refund my Max 360C for an R3 since the R3 has way better range? If you want. I've got a comparison on my website with those 2 detectors specifically. Go to my website and search for R3 and Max 360C. They're very different detectors. The R3 has better range. Yes, and it's a much better bang for the buck. It's $400 instead of $700. So you're going to get better performance. Yes, but the Max 360C has a ton of other bells and whistles too. I'll use my 360 as a prop. I just ordered a 360C, even though I have a 360. Yeah, you've got your automatic lockouts. You've got, the Bluetooth capabilities for Escort Live. I think the auto lockouts are one of the biggest things, so you don't have to like manually go in and, mute the detector yourself. It can do it for you. It's got the Wi-Fi. If you want that, that's really cool. The detector can update itself. The R3, well, you have to bring it back home. For some people, that's a really nice selling point. The Escort detectors, you can update with the Mac or over Wi-Fi. With the R3, Windows only. So there's benefits to both detectors. Yes, the R3 has better range, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the better detector for everybody. It really comes down to your priorities and preferences. And for a lot of people, the extra benefits of the 360C are worth it. For some people, it's not. So there's not one that's universally better. It really comes down to like your driving style, your personal preferences, your budget, and what's more important to you. 360C, way better plug and play detector with auto lockouts and all that kind of stuff, automatic firmware updates. The R3, more manual work, better performance, no arrows. What do you want? So that's why it's hard to like just say which one is better. They're both great detectors, but they're also very different detectors. Make sense? Does the R3 have good Android app support like the V1 has Yavi 1? No. The R3 does not have a Bluetooth chip, so it has no compatibility with pairing with the phone and adding any additional functionality. I think it would be amazing if Uniden did that. I actually emailed them the other day and said, hey, add a Bluetooth chip and give us an API so that we could add Yavi 1 to the R3, for example. That could be amazing. So a number of us have brought it up, and they could always implement that in a future firmware update. Or in a future detector rather, but no, the R3 has no Bluetooth, and so it has no capability of connecting to your phone and, well, adding any sort of additional functionality. Would the RCM be good for a commercial vehicle? Well, not supposed to have a radar detector in a commercial vehicle, but yeah, I mean, it would work. RDD immunity is pretty good there. There is, I don't know if undetectability is a factor for you, but the current RCM, it's kind of detectable from the rear especially. The next batch of RCMs is going to be more detectable than the one that I have. Rodenso is going to be sending me some more RCMs out of the next batch. I've still got their Spectre here, and I'll retest it when the next batch comes out. So that's maybe the only factor. Other than that, I mean, yeah, it's a great detector. I just posted a video about it yesterday. If you want to take a look on my channel, that's up online now. I run a hidden RPS C and considering an ALP. I do hard power downs around LEOs to do the Spectre. Any disadvantages to cutting power to the ALP? Okay, so no, with the ALP, if you're going to be killing your jammers with the buttons, that's exactly how it's designed to be used. And in fact, I think it's better because you can still tell how longer they're continuing to shoot you for. With some detectors or jammers like the laser interceptor, it was better to use the power switch than it was to use the kill switch because the kill would kind of delay for a couple seconds versus the power switch would kill it instantly. With the ALP, using the kill button kills it instantly, and you still have information about how long they're shooting you for, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's still useful to keep your jammers enabled. If you need to disable them, you can do that, but using the kill button is still fine with the ALP, and there's really no benefit to shutting down your system entirely. Let's see. Might the R3 get Bluetooth and a Uniden Live cloud database service? That could be really cool. They'd have to do a new detector altogether for them to get Bluetooth, kind of like, the Max versus the Max 2. They just added Bluetooth to the detector. They could do it. Will they? I don't know. If they were to do a cloud thing, they'd have to have a ton of users. And that's always been one of the issues with Escort Live. I mean, now, it's got more users, but in the beginning, there was nobody there. So it takes time to build up the database. That'd be cool if they were to maybe talk to Waze and get some sort of integration that way. I was actually looking at Waze's API, the other day. There's currently no way of like reporting police through an API, I don't think. And so it doesn't quite work that way. They would have to change the way Waze is built in order to do that. Maybe they could partner with them in some way, but that's something that could be really cool. I know that's being developed for the V1 actually with JBV1. They're doing a cloud-based system like Escort Live. That's one of the things I'm going to be talking about in my next upcoming video. One of the cool features of JBV1 is they're working on that. And so if Uniden was to add Bluetooth, sure, any developer could add cloud-based stuff. The main issue is, are there going to be enough users to where it is a viable option to give us saves, And yeah, that just takes time to build up that database, that user base. So yeah. Let's see. Would you say the first Max 360? When would you say the first Max 360 will be outdated? Well, that's an interesting question. Not for a while. Escort's continuing to develop it just like they are with the Max 360C. If you look at the Max and the Max 2, those, I believe, have been discontinued. But Escort, we're still waiting on firmware updates for the Max 2 to get the same level of BSM filtering that the Max 360 and the 360C have. Escort has not been doing a good job. They've been promising this over and over and over. They say, oh, it'll be released in a few weeks. Doesn't come out. A few months later, oh, it'll be released in a few weeks. Doesn't come out. There was somebody who posted on Escort's forum this huge list of like all the times Escort has said it's going to come out, and it hasn't come out. And they actually just released an update for it the other day, and it was just a fix for the Bluetooth chip to connect to iPhones better. That's all the update was. And so we're still waiting on the update for the Max and the Max 2 that's been consistently promised and consistently missed. But my guess is the reason that doesn't come out is because Escort is still trying to fix the lockup issues with the Max 360 and the 360C. And they want to fix that before taking that firmware and kind of porting it over to the Max and the Max 2, which is my guess as to why it hasn't come out yet. So they're still working on the 360. They'll update the Max and the Max 2 at some point. But when are they going to stop supporting the 360? I don't think it'll be for a little while. So, yeah. Has anyone started a pool yet about when we'll see the RPS C firmware update? Yes. So, talking to Rodenso about that. Speaking of firmware updates, that's something that they've been wanting to. Here's my Pro M. They needed to fix it first for the Pro M. One of the biggest issues was Rodenso's lockouts wouldn't stick. And even with their new detectors, their lockouts still were not working properly. And if they were to take the firmware and bring it over to the RPS C, well, I mean, it would fix some things and it would improve the BSM filtering, but they really, really wanted to focus on the lockouts and other stuff first and get that nailed before then bringing over the RPS C firmware update. And so from what they're saying, with the latest firmware here, US 8, the lockouts now work. They're going to take that firmware update stuff and bring it over to the RCM, and then they're going to, now that they've got that, also bring it over to the RPS C. So that's kind of their game plan as far as that, and that's why it hasn't come out yet. So yeah, anyway, a little bit of backstory as far as that. I have a 5-year-old V1 by Ryan K. Do you recommend V1 upgrade to the latest version? So 2 benefits to upgrading to a newer version. Number 1, the Bluetooth compatibility. I don't know what version you have. You can check, turn off the V1, press and hold the power button, and then turn it on while still holding the power button on, and it'll flash the firmware version. If you have 3.892 or newer, you have Bluetooth compatibility. My V1's in the car. I'm actually running it, so I don't have it here to show you. But on the front of the detector, it also says ESP if you have the Bluetooth stuff. That will allow it to pair to your phone for V1, V1 driver, JBV1, and add auto lockouts. A ton of really useful functionality, and it's an amazing benefit. You can get custom sweeps for better performance. Highly recommend it. Additionally, if you have a 3.894 or newer, you have their jump K fighter. Huge benefit if you're running the V1 with K-band on to get better BSM filtering. I upgraded mine from 3.893 to 3.894 just for that update, and it made a big difference. And so if you have a 5-year-old detector, you probably don't have the jump K fighter. And if you want that, I would recommend upgrading if you have K-band on. It makes a big difference to help cut down on false alerts too. So the Bluetooth stuff for your lockouts and the newer V1 for the jump K fighter, those are the 2 big benefits to getting a newer version. So yeah, I'd recommend the update. Any way to keep the rear dash cam running even with the top down in a convertible? Mount it in a place where it's not going to be affected by the top going down. Maybe, like, I was thinking about this. I put my top down earlier today. Maybe if you can mount the dash cam behind the headrest for either driver's or passenger side, and it can still see out, and it's not going to be blocked, that's a possibility. Or you can get like a GoPro on a suction cup mount, like get a wireless one and stick it there so it's always running, and put it on a battery or something. Not the greatest permanent solution, but it could work if you really, really wanted it to work. But maybe the headrest would be the best solution, or if you have like a crossbar or something in the back. I don't really like that as much because it blocks your limited visibility in the back, which is why I kind of prefer the headrest thing. But you may run into issues with being able to see stuff out the back because it's not the ideal location. So yeah, convertibles are not ideal, but that's an idea. Any radar detector for laser only by Rayan. Radar detectors for laser doesn't really help. I mean, talked about this a ton of times. You know, you've got a radar detector. By the time it goes off to laser in general, cop already has your speed. So it's a speeding ticket notifier. It's not a speeding ticket protector. So, I mean, yeah, some detectors are better than others at detecting laser. The V1 is really good. It doesn't have good filtering, so it falses a lot, but it's got sensational detection capabilities, you know. Yeah, like Matt said, get the ALP if you want protection from laser. If you're only using a radar detector, you're not protected from laser. You're protected, you know, with radar, but not from laser. You do need a radar detector and a laser jammer. They're complementary tools. One's focused on radar, one's focused on laser. Neither one can do both for you. Let's see. I don't even notice K-band alerts on my R3 anymore. It's bad. Too much falsing. Yeah. So Z400 Racer. It falses. Every radar detector falses. I believe the new Max 360s actually do a little bit better job than the R3s at BSM filtering. Things like enabling the BSM filter, K-band filter, obviously helps. I'll do things like run the detector in advanced mode at maybe 70% or even city mode to cut down sensitivity to like 10%. Not ideal in a situation if a lot of K-band is in use, but if you're in an area like I am where you know there's not a lot of K-band, maybe you just want to cut down the sensitivity, that's an option. A lot of detectors will do that. Low speed muting helps. You can enable the traffic sensor filter, TSF, turn that on. Switch from K wide to K narrow to kind of narrow the range of K-band frequencies that it scans for. That's an option. So you do have a couple options available to kind of cut down the falses. I have a tutorial on my website. If you want to go over the different options, go to my website, and then at the top, you'll see like Uniden, and then go to R3 or R1, and you'll find tutorials. Or even on the front page, you'll see, scroll down to like R3, and there's an option for how to configure it. Click on that, and that'll take you to the R3 tutorial, and that'll explain all the different settings. So yeah, you've got options. Any word on updates from the ALP? Can we expect anything new from them soon? By Obi-Wan Kenobi. Nothing that I'm really aware of as far as ALP updates. They release them from time to time. They're not usually huge stuff, maybe minor bug fixes, support for new guns, new features added, but there's not a ton of stuff. It's pretty stable and reliable now, so I don't really expect a lot of stuff, but I'm sure they'll come out from time to time, and yeah. Yavi, okay, next question. By D Heller 777. Is the Uniden R1 and R3 still kings of range detection? Talked a little bit about that earlier. Yeah, in general, you're going to get more range with the R1 and the R3 than any of the other detectors. It may tie in some situations. Other detectors may be able to outrange it. But in most situations, you'll find that, yes, they're going to be able to meet or exceed the performance of other radar detectors that you can find out there. So that's generally how that works. Gotham N. Yavi 1 was collecting data for machine learning / artificial intelligence. Any updates on that? So that was really cool. The idea was the detector could, you drive around and it kind of watches the ramp up and all this kind of stuff to use artificial intelligence to determine whether or not it's a legitimate or a false alert versus a stationary or a moving alert. Really cool idea. Unfortunately, the developer, Frankie, is pretty much backed out of Yavi 1 and doesn't really work on it anymore. And so the idea is cool, but there's nothing going on. And any of the development you could do is there's nobody to send it to anymore. There's no more development there. And so that feature is just kind of fallen away. There are some other people now who have taken over Yavi 1. 2.0.7 is now available. I think it's a beta. It's on RDF if you want to take a look. There's a couple people now who have the source code and are adding new features and bug fixes and that kind of stuff. But the artificial intelligence is not one of the things that they're working on. And so cool idea, but those doesn't look like that one is going to come to fruition. So Yavi 1 stuff. Yeah. Huggable cactus. R1, R3 is still the top dog. For most people, yeah, it's kind of a simple recommendation. If you don't want the it depends answer for what's the best radar detector, R3. Maybe a Max 360, some situations, maybe DFR7 if you want a budget detector or whatever, DFR6, but yeah. Okay, on the Max 360C, if I set the sensitivity to highway mode, will it have more range than auto mode? By PVK LOL. So funny that you asked that. The way it's supposed to work in theory. Oh, hold on. A dog wants to come up into my lap. Hey, buddy. Say hi, Albus. We're doing a live video. Say hi. Hey, everybody. So auto mode is supposed to reduce the sensitivity of the detector at lower speeds and give you full sensitivity at higher speeds. However, testing has shown that auto mode will actually reduce the sensitivity even if you're traveling at highway speeds. And then I believe Escort's actually come out later and said, oh, yeah, by the way, you do get less sensitivity even at full speed on auto mode. If you want full speed, switch to highway mode. So highway mode, max sensitivity at all times, less filtering. Auto mode, more filtering, reduced sensitivity. Yeah, so it's supposed to give you full sensitivity at highway speeds, but it doesn't actually do that with the 360C. So if you're in rural areas, for example, you know, not a lot of BSM filtering. I really want more performance. Switch to highway mode for K-band. Ka-band is always full sensitivity at all times, no matter what mode that you're on or what speed that you're traveling. Will the R3 and R1 interfere with each other? By Rebel. Yep. Not a good idea to run 2 detectors at the same time. They will interfere. I tried it for a little while, maybe an R3 in the front and an R1 in the back. Yeah, there's going to be some interference issues. And even with the similar sounding beeps, it's a little difficult sometimes to differentiate front and rear maybe look in your rearview mirror at the display or something. So I tried it for a little while, but never really super excited about it, so I didn't do it. But yeah, so that's that. Rigoberto Gutierrez. Sorry if I messed up your name. My Max 360 stops beeping after it picks up a signal and dies like the speaker is blown in a way. It will beep again if I turn it on. If I turn it on again, and works for a few seconds again and dies again. That doesn't sound right. The red line has a history of the speaker blowing if you run it at full volume for too long, but I haven't heard any issues of the Max 360's speaker blowing or anything going out. Maybe contact Escort's customer service if it's an issue. Maybe take a video of it if you have dashcam or even on your phone. Maybe don't do it while you're driving, point your phone at it. But if you can post a video on the forums, people can take a look at it and see if that's normal, if there's something messed up with it. But probably just contacting Escort's customer service is your best bet. So, all right, cool. Let's see, what else? Autovox M6, more dash cam recommendations you guys are posting. So yeah, all right. So I think that's probably pretty good for now. I've been doing this for almost an hour, 50 minutes. So awesome. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Off to work on my next video now, which is going to be talking about the newest radar detectors that are coming out. There's one radar detector that hasn't been announced yet. It's a new radar detector. Looks like it's going to be coming out soon. That I'm telling you guys about in that video. So stay tuned for that one. And talking about the latest firmware updates that have come out for all these different detectors. So yeah, that's a video now. I think it's about 20 minutes or so. I'm going to start cutting it down and streamlining it and stuff. But yeah, so that's the next video coming out for. Cool. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I want to set up for next time figure out a way to do the live streaming and have it scheduled so you guys get the notification that, hey, I'm going to be doing a live stream at this point. I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there's some technical stuff I got to sort out with the software and whatnot on my computer. So it works. And yeah, Mike Patel, I have a Max 360, got lasered and now I'm in trouble. Sorry, get laser jammers. I mean, maybe you get lasered and it goes off and it reports it to Escort Live, and maybe you can get alerted by other drivers who did that. But really, if you encounter laser, you really need laser jammers. Radar detector is not enough. So Mike, take a look at my page, read over the information with the anti-laser priority. Yeah, sorry to hear about that. So anyway, yeah, I'm going to get more stuff figured out as far as the live streaming, scheduling, all that kind of stuff. So awesome. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. And hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.